are so excited
Yeah.
for you both to be here. Our two amazing guests, RMA patient Samantha Rosalie, who you might know from the Elvis Duran show, and our credible fertility nurse, RMA fertility nurse, Hope. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Before I hand things over to Samantha, just a few, if you have any fertility questions at all, just drop them in the comment box. We'll be keeping an eye out throughout this chat. We do have some questions that were previously submitted that we're going to start with, but feel free to add your question below. Samantha, we really appreciate you being here. Before we go into questions, we'd love to hear a little bit about your fertility story and your journey from the beginning and what that path looked like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. It feels like a hard thing to like even think about because it's all been every step has been so overwhelming since literally the decision. Um, so as someone who was 34 when they first actively started trying, and actively started trying also means properly tracking your system because I've had conversations with some people who are like, well, I'm not trying. I'm like, you don't know how much math goes into getting pregnant. Like it just happens, of course, to plenty of people, but the window is relatively small for odds. So we started tracking and trying. And from the internet, I knew that at my age, because 35 is the above or under for trying for a year, um, I just, it was with zero success. So after about 8 months, I was like, let's just go get checked out because going to a fertility specialist doesn't automatically mean you're going to go through IVF or, IVI or fertility treatment, IUI rather. You can you and your partner can just get checked to see how everything lines up. And everything was lining up totally fine for me and William. We ended up being one of like although I'm pretty sure it's endometriosis, you can't be diagnosed without the surgery. So I have to say I'm only pretty sure. But after a couple months of testing, which is about how long it took us, and I think it takes in general for you to walk into an office, get all the tests, and then they say, okay, here are your options. We were at about like 10 months. And at that point, I was like, we can, of course, keep trying, but I'd like to move forward with other options just to see, because it did feel like, I don't know what word to use, suspicious that it was not, that nothing, that nothing came to. Poor Hope's having some camera problems.
It keeps telling me I'm out. So my thing's expired. And I'm like, it didn't expire. Sorry.
So that was the preamble, and then it was about a year and a half with RMA, and in that year and a half, we did 3 separate retrievals for a couple different reasons. The goal was to only do 2, but nothing viable came out of the second one, so we just rolled right into a third one. 3 unsuccessful, nothing came out of them. I put that in quotes because like the team learns from every transfer. So the word unsuccessful kind of sounds way crappier than just, it puts it in such a little bubble that I think has some nuance to it. But 3 that didn't take, 3 transfers. 1, I forget what it's called, where I was pumped with some medication that let us try naturally because we were traveling. And that really went well, except nothing happened. I had so many eggs that a doctor said, if this works out, you might have your own reality TV show. And I think she said that to kind of scare me. And I was like, yes. And then, yeah, that nothing came of that. And then the last transfer, which is the only one that anything came from. And it was after I was treated for endometriosis for about 2 months. And the team was comfortable moving forward with that because, anyone who knows anything about my husband knows he's such a science dude. So I let him do research, and if he's good, I'm good. So as far as the meds I was on for 2 months, he was like, I'm totally comfortable with you being on them for that period of time. I could have had the surgery to find out if I had endometriosis, but that would have pushed back the transfer by about 3 months because you got to heal. And at that point, I was like, just give me the drugs. It's fine. we'll do the drugs. And then oh, if it doesn't work, I'm like, then maybe I don't know. Then maybe I'll get the surgery. Maybe try something else. Thankfully, we didn't have to figure that out because it took. So that was the journey, and and Hope was my nurse, as I believe it is for RMA across the board the whole time. So day one to her being the first human to get the phone call when everything worked out, because I told Samantha my daughter first. Yeah, that was the whole damn fertility journey. Now we're here in the third trimester, feeling swollen, feeling good.
Goes so fast.
It was fast. I don't even have a nursery yet. Like, I don't have walls. People are building one thing at a time. We'll get there.
Yep.
I like the dog in the burning building, but I'm happy to be the dog in the burning building at this point, because for a while I was like, you can't really. It's one of the nicest, most well-intended, but hardest things to hear when you're going through it, and someone gives you a version of, it's gonna happen, just have faith. Statistically, yeah, but when you're in that place, it's such a hard thing to hear, because you're like, I want to believe you, but my core just like is like, how do you know? Like, what crystal ball have you seen? We knew we were going to be parents one way or another, so that was never the big question. I was just like, am I going to experience pregnancy? Yeah, and that's probably the most common, but one of the hardest things to hear from really well-intended people is, keep positive, I know it's going to work out. And your brain's just like, great. I hope you're right. And then everyone hits you with it, I knew it afterwards. And I'm like, you sit down, let me enjoy this. You're not wrong, but you're coming at this from the wrong angle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. So let's kick off some of our questions. As I said before, these were previously submitted. So thank you all for submitting these questions. So somebody who's just under 35, they've had a few miscarriages. Should they see a fertility specialist?
So I would say in most cases, yes. When you're going to your OB, they after a couple, one or two, they may just say you should maybe go get checked out. We do have a lot of testing we can do, blood work panels for autoimmune conditions, karyotype, which is your chromosomes, making sure that they are where they should be. There are a bunch of things we could do to just check it out, and I think it's a good idea if you are having those issues to come to be evaluated.
And everyone looks at the women for this, by the way.
Yeah, we have women and men.
This is a partner thing. I had a couple
Very
people
much.
why William was getting checked. I'm like, oh, babe,
yeah, it's both partners. Mm-hmm.
Right? As time goes on, we learn it's not the women and the men. Just the guys play a big part. There's a lot to study there.
Huge part. Yeah. Yeah.
Someone wrote, I'm at a different fertility clinic and not having a great experience. When is it time for a second opinion?
So I think you know yourself best. If you are not comfortable, if you're not happy with the care that you are receiving, you absolutely have the right to go and ask for another opinion. Just set up an appointment and you can decide from there, get more information. It's never a bad thing. If we want you to be comfortable with your care. So if you're not comfortable, I feel like we have a really great team. So, there's so many resources for you to reach out to, utilize those resources, and then seek another opinion if needed.
Great. And moving on to IVF, a treatment option that RMA offers. When do you know it's time to move to IVF?
Yeah. So, do you think it's specifically IVF or just treatment in general?
I would think maybe, after a couple of failed IUIs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we skipped IUI. I did from my testing. They were like, you should go straight into IVF. So I've gotten this question a lot, and it's very hard for me to figure because I'm like, they told me.
Yeah. So it really depends on multiple factors. It depends on insurance coverage. It depends on your comfort and your attitudes towards IVF. We usually say if you want to come in and you're doing IUI, around 3 is where we recommend. And after the 3rd one, if it's unsuccessful, we say, okay, maybe it's time to move to IVF. If you have that IVF coverage, or something like that, then we may recommend going to IVF right away. But it's a conversation that you have with your doctor. They go over your diagnostics. They go over your, what you've done previously, and then develop the best plan for you. So it really is person dependent, very different. Very different.
Great. And then before starting IVF and beginning that treatment, are there any tips or guidance you can give to have the best possible experience?
Yeah. So before starting, I would say anything that's good for your fertility health, overall health is good for your fertility health. So minimizing stress where you can, cutting down on drinking and smoking, exercising, things like that. Also, once you get here, to have the best experience, utilizing all of your resources, talking to your nurse, asking questions like all of you are doing now. We have a lot of education that we give out. So reading that, kind of being, involved in your care is really important. Also, utilizing outside resources as well. So a nutrition team, we have one of those. Also, mental health resources are extremely important. It's never a bad idea to have more people in your corner, and infertility is hard. So having a counselor or someone to talk to about this whole process and kind of walk you through decisions and how you're feeling is also something I recommend for anyone going through this process.
Yeah, that all tracks. Like literally the answer is everything. Literally
everything
you could do. Yeah. One thing that we did halfway through, and as we all know, wasn't the fix, but it was something that the team was like, hey, this does affect some people, is I went totally gluten and dairy free for months. So just if it's something anyone's interested, if someone's like, how can I throw literally everything at the wall before I start? That's also something you could do right off the bat, because it causes some swelling, and some of us are less tolerant than others and have intolerances or allergies we don't really even know about, and that can affect it too. So that was hard. All of this was hard, but that was like,
I remember you were like, are you sure I can go? I was like, yes, I'm sorry.
What can I eat? I remember asking you at some point, I'm like, so one day when I am pregnant, can I have cheese again? Like, when do I have to stop? Oh, man.
Another question. Can you still have sex while you're going through IVF?
No, the actual retrieval process. So once you start those injections, no penetrative sex for the entire time until you get a period after the retrieval. So it's about 3-ish weeks. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter, depending on the person. But no, not during cycle.
Just that period, though. Some people think it's all of IVF. Like, I've had backwards ways of people saying 1.5 years. Wow. I'm like, yeah, there were...
No, just during cycle.
Like there's one window of time where you really, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with y'all, because we are here, you are not feeling your best. So of all the things that were going on at that point, I was fine. Just give me a hot water bottle and like, just leave me alone. You're getting messed with those injections. So, it's literally just a couple weeks during that, period.
Yes, exactly.
And this is something, Samantha, you mentioned earlier. Is it normal to react differently to fertility meds the second time around?
Oh my God.
Yes, it is very cycle dependent. So, it depends on the amount of follicles you're growing, which contributes to your hormone levels. It depends on just environmental factors, what you're doing that week. It really depends on, every cycle is so different. So one cycle you may feel totally fine, another cycle you may be bloated, crampy, emotional, everything. It really depends, and all of it is normal on that spectrum.
The first retrieval, I think I was out for almost 2 days afterwards, and I felt pretty normal during. The second time was far worse than it even had to be, because I had my expectations, because I've been through this already. So I know how my body responds. And then when it put me in this like place of really just this deep depression, which helps when you know why, but it doesn't make it great. For work, I'd lay on the couch and I'd move to the bed. Like that was my day. That was, oh God, that was awful. And that was the one where we got no viable embryos. So we're like, let's just do it again. And
Yeah.
thankfully, the third time did feel the not as good as the first, but it was better than the second. So,
Yeah. Everyone's
yeah,
different.
no one expect anything. Please just make all of the room for yourself to be in any kind of mood. Level of
Exactly.
physical discomfort, we have no idea.
Yeah. Samantha, any tips on, going through these treatments and like, being with your partner, like keeping your partner involved in this, like I think it can be sometimes one-sided. Is there anything, I know, I know. Is there anything you can help out like going through these IVF treatments? Like, was there anything that specifically stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, William did a great freaking job. He's really an involved person and he finds science fascinating. So the combo was like a home run. It is such a peeve of mine when I have a listener or a follower message me about either their lack of partner's involvement or how grateful they are when their partner decided to make an appointment with them. I don't know you. I can't talk to you the way I'd like to talk to you, but if you could put your partner on the phone, like it's nature's rule that I have to carry it and go through the most invasive parts of all of this. That that does not mean I don't think that my partner should not decide to support me and show up in every other way. And as Hope
Mm-hmm.
can attest to, he made every appointment that he physically could with work. He Hope didn't even give me instructions for research or medication, called William. Like we had this divide and conquer because I got literally with nothing else to do. I have at least a part-time job of time eaten out of my life, not to mention what you can't put a time or tag on, which was my wellness, that you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
So I swing hard the other way. I think your partner, and you should discuss with your partner early, you deserve for your partner to be involved in literally every freaking step that they can be. Um, that's the expectation, not, that's what I think. I know not everyone is that lucky. But yeah, that, and I think you should have, maybe if I were going through this again, um, I would have like weekly formal sit downs just to check in, because the second time was, like I mentioned, since it really sucked, William was kind of handling it the way he handled the first time. And I was kind of trying to handle it that way too, because I didn't entirely know what was going on. And then when it was over, there were like still residual feelings after the transfer. And I just realized I had so much more like pain. And I hate this word because we were both just doing our best, but like a little resentment because I was like, I needed more. I didn't really know I needed more. He didn't really know I needed more. But maybe if you're forced to have like a weekly sit down check in, here's where I'm at. Here's where it compared to last week. Here's what I'm expecting. Here's what you could do to support me. Here's what you've done right. Here's what maybe we need to improve, whatever. I think that would have helped me a lot, especially in the second time. So cut out communication time, no matter how 10 out of 10 your partner is.
Yeah.
That's important. Communication is key.
If they suck at
Great
all
advice.
of this, you be careful. You're
It's great advice.
with this person, so.
Yeah. How important is diet in choosing cleaner, chemical-free products during fertility prep?
I personally think balance is key. I don't think you need to go out and only get all organic, clean ingredients. Do what you can. Definitely, we do have a nutrition team. I recommend speaking to a nutritionist and just kind of seeing what your body needs. Everyone is, like I keep saying, everyone is so different, but it is so true. I don't think you need, if you want to have Oreos, have those, but make other decisions when you can, and choose what you can when you can, but you don't have to do a complete 180 of your diet. It's not going to make or break it, but I would say make mindful decisions when you can.
Yeah. And so you don't think going chemical free and having cleaner ingredients is
It definitely wouldn't hurt, but it's not
Yeah.
something that, like, if you do have this, you're not going to get pregnant or you're not going to be successful. That's not the case. It's simply not. So you can absolutely talk to, I would recommend talking to a nutritionist, making organic, whole foods, nutritious foods when you can are definitely important, but it's not the end all be all. But choose it when you can.
Can we add to that too? Another thing that people on the outside were all telling me that was well intended but driving me effing crazy. Stress. Oh, just be less stressed. Oh, cool. I'll try that. That's great.
Yeah, it's so difficult.
And I spoke with you a bunch of times about it, Hope, and I've spoken with Dr. Trizer about it and other people I've seen. And it's like, as far as we know, stress isn't great. We all already understand that. But she was insistent, Dr. Trizer was insistent that unless you're going through like a cheetah is chasing you levels of stress for an extended period of time, this is not what's happening. This is not what's, quote, going wrong or preventing you from getting pregnant. So same thing as food. And stop telling people going through IVF, just be less stressed until you get pregnant.
You can't, but yeah, no, balance is key. Check in with yourself. You know yourself the best. Do what you can.
Yep, that's great. Someone asked the question, they really want twins. What are the risks associated with a twin pregnancy?
Lots of risks. We try and avoid multiples wherever possible. We are an evidence-based practice, and we have found that it is safer for mom and baby, for the pregnancy as a whole, if we have a singleton. Obviously, people have been having multiples since the dawn of time, and it is a thing that happens, but if we can avoid it, we do. When you're having multiples, there is a risk of gestational hypertension. There's a risk of preterm birth. Babies usually end up in the NICU in a good amount of cases. There are significant risks to multiples. So we try and avoid it when we can. We only do single embryo transfers at RMA. We will not do multiple embryo transfers. It's less than a 5% chance of that embryo splitting. So it's a very low chance. IUI is a little bit different, but we try and avoid it as much as possible.
Ooh, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I always assumed this, and I know I can probably pop it in online, but I've not done that. Whenever someone has twins and they're like, oh, they're IVF, that's only slightly more likely if it's fraternal, right? If I go through IVF and I have identical twins, is that the same odds as if I wasn't going through IVF and had identical twins? Because that's just the cell splitting, or is that something you would know in the little outside before transferring?
It's a little bit less of a chance of IVF because we already have that embryo is already a blastocyst, and then that chance of it splitting from there is a little bit less.
So you've got bookends. Fraternal twins way more likely with IVF. Identical twins way less likely with IVF.
Sorry, identical. It would be the same embryo splitting. Yeah. So it would be identical, not fraternal. So we know that. Yeah.
But that would still be a surprise to all of us.
Yes, it would be a surprise to everyone.
Okay. So if you have identical twins after IVF, that's like the rarest.
Yes, that would be extremely rare.
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, that was a good question. Yeah, IUI, a little bit different, but IVF, it's very, very rare for that embryo that we transfer to split.
Wow, okay.
Is there a certain beta level that suggests a pregnancy is more likely to be viable?
So we like it when we get that first beta level, we want it to be around a 30 or above. It really depends on the person, and you want to check in with your provider and your primary team. We've had lower become successful pregnancies, but it really depends on your exact situation. Every beta is going to be different. Even from pregnancy to pregnancy, you cannot ever compare betas. So if your beta was a certain level in your first pregnancy and it's a little bit lower this time, not necessarily a bad thing. But to answer specifically, we like it to be around 30 for most people, but check in with your provider. It's different for everyone.
Great. And just one last question. Hope and Samantha, any tips you can give someone who's out there, who's a little nervous to take that first step into treatment? Any tips you can give them, and guidance and support?
Yeah. Sam, you want to go first, or?
Sure. I remember like literally shaking just being on the way to tell my parents that I was doing IVF. Not because of my parents. Like I knew they'd be supportive. I was a little worried they were gonna like reflexively face pity party me, which was not the case. They were very like kind of shocked and stoic and like, okay, all right. And you know, like they were exactly where I would need them to be. I don't know how avoidable that is. And to me, knowing that kind of makes me cope better with it. Because if I just try and get rid of my anxieties and stress and there's just no way to do it, I'm going to feel like I feel like I'm failing or I'm, you know, doing it wrong. But when I accept this is actually part of it, that's okay. This is fully expected. That helps me a little bit. Education is usually some sort of soothing or antidote to anxiety. Feel free to pick my brain. Feel free to pick, you know, call an office just if you're curious. Yeah, it feels a good portion for me. It felt a good portion of just get through it. And that's why I've been so damn chatty about it, is because I wasn't following any accounts at the time. I only knew of a couple people going through it. I'm like, you know what? Let's talk about it, so at least people won't feel as in a bubble. Yeah, but that's mostly it. And knowing if being public or private about it is going to serve you. People ask me, what should I do? What did you do? I'm like, I had to tell people because of my job. I couldn't have food poisoning for like 3 weeks straight because all the appointments are early in the morning and my unusual hours were going to give it away immediately. So I don't know. I honestly don't know if I would have told maybe anyone. That was never an option for me to figure out. I was like, I have to tell my job. And if I tell my job, got to tell my family. And then at that point, I'm like, I got a handful of really close friends. I probably feel better if they knew too. And it's thrown into the deep end. I didn't feel ready to talk about it. If I had a 9 to 5 or different hours where I could get away with it, who knows? Maybe I would have kept it quiet for a while. And I actually don't think that would have served me in the long run. So it kind of ended up being a blessing in disguise. Because if I was sad one day, no one would pry or ask me. They just kind of assume. And that I think is helpful. Maybe if everything was normal, they'd be like, dude, what's wrong with you? Like, who knows? So yeah, just a mixture of getting through it and figuring out what form of openness will serve you best. Because just like almost everything else here, there is no right.
Yeah, correct. And to piggyback off that, I think like knowing you're not alone in this and knowing that there are so many people out there going through the same thing and, you know, taking that step to get treatment is a really scary one, but it's something that will, you know, give you more information and give you power in the long run. Like you will know you will have options. And, you know, talking to providers and professionals and your nurse or your doctor, you know, is something that will be a good thing. So it's definitely scary, but knowing you're not alone. And thank you, Sam, for sharing everything because I know it's probably helped so many people. Yeah. So just that would be my advice.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Samantha, so much for sharing your story. And Nurse Hope, thank you so much for all the care you give all these families every single day at RMA. It's amazing. And I know this was helpful for so many people. Thank you everyone for joining us today and for your awesome questions. We really appreciate you all. And follow RMA for more events like this because we'll be doing this more often. So thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.